prevent it from rubbing on the magnetic structure. Next, they glue the cone. It's usually made of cardboard, plastic, or metal. Then they solder the electrical connections. The current coming from the amplifier travels by wire to the two terminals. The terminal wires connect to the voice coil wires. After making sure the cone moves freely without rubbing, they glue on a rigid cardboard cap to keep out dust. The last step is to take the speaker for an audio test drive. They connect it to a machine that transmits different frequencies. They make sure the movement of the voice coil and cone isn't obstructed in any way. Then a computer device analyzes the sound wave the driver sends out. Two-way speaker systems have two drivers in each enclosure, a woofer and a tweeter. A woofer has a large cone that vibrates more slowly for low frequencies. A tweeter has a small cone that vibrates quickly for high frequencies. Three-way systems have a third driver with a medium-sized cone for the mid-ranges. At most hotels, room keys are a thing of the past. You're more likely these days to be given a key card. When you arrive at the door to your room, you swipe or insert it to unlock the handle and get in. Because the room number doesn't appear on the card, this system is far more secure than door locks with a keyhole. The metal case that houses the door lock's mechanical and electronic components is called the housing. To make it, they begin by melting zinc ingots. To melt zinc, you have to heat it to about 390 degrees Celsius. Die casting machinery then injects the molten zinc into molds. Between injections, sprayers coat the empty mold cavities with a release agent, the industrial equivalent of greasing a baking pan. A built-in cooling system hardens the metal, then a trimming die cuts off the excess zinc around each piece and in the openings. Meanwhile, the electronic circuit board, the brain of the lock, takes shape. They call this the pick-and-place machine. It picks up the 60-odd electronic components and places them in the right position on each board. This computer-guided machine installs 15,000 components per hour. Next, the boards undergo what's called wave soldering. A mix of molten lead and tin surges up from underneath, fusing the components in place and creating electrical bonds. Then both sides of each circuit board get a coat of silicone-based sealant. This protects the components against the elements. Back to the housings now. Workers lubricate them with grease, then apply what's called a sleeve bearing, a nylon bearing that enables the handle to turn smoothly. Next comes the drive tube, onto which the lever will be assembled on the other side. There are several clutch components that link the lever to the latch. Swipe the right card and they permit the latch to retract. After applying more lubricant, they install an override that enables the hotel to open the door with a key if, for some reason, the electronics malfunction. They install the circuit board and connect it to the various parts of controls, such as the clutch motor, which they install next. Now they close up the completed housing with a steel backplate. This protects the components inside from rusting. The last step is to insert a battery pack. It holds 3 standard AA batteries. The factory tests the lock using a test key card because the lock isn't yet programmed to work with a specific card. That's done after installation. Elsewhere in the factory, they assemble the mortise, the part of the lock that goes inside the door. When you lock up, the mortise's bolt comes out of the door edge and fits into the hole of a receiving piece called the strike plate in the door frame. They close up the mortise with a back plate. demonstration shows how they install the mortise in the door. Once it's in, they screw a decorative plate on top. This is what the finished electronic door lock looks like. Key cards have instructions on one side, a magnetic data stripe on the other. They use a generic card to test every lock that comes off the production line. In the quality control lab, they subject every new design to several rigorous tests. They open and close 1 million times. They subject the lever, latch, and lock to repeated impacts. They also test lock function in extreme temperatures. These electronic door locks come in several metal finishes plated over the zinc, and even in a painted finish that simulates wood. If you have any comments about the show, or if you'd like to suggest topics for future shows, drop us a line at www.howitismade.net.
It's a wet, wild ride as the Orange County crew takes Daytona Beach by storm. Coming up next on American Chopper. Boyd faces a mutiny when some of his best guys walk out just before the deadline hits on the Corvette Stingray.
And we're in serious trouble.
Tonight, the most dangerous of ocean predators, killer squid. Sunday,